Right, I'm just doing another quick video. This one is about judicial reviews. So a judicial review is the High Court of London or one of the regional offices where they review a decision made by a public body. So any decision that is made by a public body has to be done lawfully. So the decision has to follow the guidelines, the rules for making that decision. So they can't just decide for whatever reason that somebody did or didn't do something or shouldn't do something. There has to be a proper, just rationale for that decision. Now, of course, we all know that the police make decisions that not everybody agrees with. They fail to uphold most complaints. The IOPC also do the same thing. So any of the decisions made by the police or the IOPC can be reviewed by judicial review. Now, the thing is, you can't just use the judicial review process because you don't like the decision. So what you really need to do is first, before you even consider a judicial review, you have to look at what they have decided. If that decision is wrong, not just because they made a wrong decision, but the process that they took to make the decision is wrong. So a classic example is for an incident where I had an issue with Lancashire Police and there was an altercation, there was a conviction involved. I'm not going to go into too much details about that because of a pending or a live civil claim at the moment. But basically, a police officer did something and he lied about it in court. The point is, the whole process about the way the police wouldn't give evidence or wouldn't disclose evidence, I felt that that was a misconduct issue, possibly a criminal issue. So I reported that to the police and said, look, here's a complaint. Your police officer lied. It was never investigated. They refused to record it. They rejected it. They didn't uphold it. They basically said that the complaint I had made had been dealt with by the courts. It hadn't. It related to something that was not disclosed to the court, so therefore the courts weren't privy to this information, therefore it wasn't dealt with by the courts. My complaint was about the conduct of the police not disclosing to the courts. So I reported the police, but they were insistent that it wasn't an issue to be complained about, and they rejected my complaint. So I appealed it to the IOPC, and I did a full detailed appeal. It was several pages long. It addressed points in law where they were wrong, how the police have to investigate all criminal allegations, and it was so thorough that it was quite clear that the IOPC were wrong and that they would obviously uphold the appeal. So when they responded, they didn't uphold the appeal. They agreed with what Lancashire Police had said, which was utterly rubbish, and it was so blatantly wrong that I just went straight for a judicial review. I knew that that was my only course of action. Fighting the police and fighting the IOPC is so futile. The problem you've got is that when they make a decision, they know they've got no recourse on that decision unless you could be bothered going to a judicial review to the cost. So they know that 99% or more of all complaints that they throw back at the victims and say, we found we've done nothing wrong, they know that pretty much nobody is going to go to judicial review. Not everybody knows about it, not everybody understands them, and they are costly and they are frightening, and people will often be put off by the risk of high costs if they lose, or even the high cost to just proceed if you don't know the process. So I wrote a letter before action. I notified the IOPC that the decision was wrong. I pointed out in law how it was wrong, and I told them that they needed to review and overturn the decision, or certainly review their decision and remake the decision. You can't make them overturn it. So I wrote a letter before action. As I say, it was several pages long, and they conceded. So the IOPC have admitted that they made an unlawful decision, a decision that was to support an unlawful decision by Lancashire Police. So both Lancashire Police and the IOPC both supported each other in an unlawful decision to deprive me of justice. So that's what we're up against. Unfortunately, the judicial review process does give you the ability to challenge these decisions made by the IOPC and the police. The problem is it can be expensive, it's complex, it's risky, and that's what the IOPC and the police thrive on. They know that the majority of people will not bother. They will just give up. They just know that not many people will go through this process. So they are using or abusing the process, knowing quite well that you can't continue the process or won't continue the process, knowing that once they make a decision, they know that 99.9% of us will not go that route. They know that they have just stopped you in your tracks. And that's where you need to consider a judicial review. Now, they can be expensive, they can be risky, so you don't just go and do one just because you think every decision that they make is wrong. Sometimes the decision that you want to judicially review is actually correct. Just because you don't like it, and just because some people might disagree and some might disagree, that doesn't mean it can be judicially reviewed. See, a judicial review is about reviewing a decision that's so unreasonable that no reasonable person would ever make that decision. So basically you're saying only an unreasonable person would make that decision. So in my case, the police and the IOPC have both made the same decision. So in my appeal, the IOPC conceded, a judicial review was granted, and the IOPC had agreed to pay costs, albeit that the costs would have been ordered by the courts anyway. So these costs were my costs as litigant in person. Unfortunately, you can only claim £19 per hour. I think my costs added up to, I think, in the region of £500, give or take. But I then, once they'd agreed to pay all reasonable costs, I had no intentions of continuing at £19 an hour. So why did I then instructed a solicitor? The solicitor then instructed a barrister, and all these were normal processes, normal reasonable costs that would be incurred on a judicial review, and the IOPC paid for them. Don't know how much they were, it would have been a huge bill, and the IOPC had to pay it, and that came out of your money and my money. So the IOPC abusing the complaints process, knowing that the decision was unlawful, that decision was unreasonable, and they knew it. They just didn't think that I would go to a judicial review, and I did. So my advice would be not to go straight for a judicial review first. First of all, you need to make a decision whether you're prepared to go that route, how unreasonable the decision was. You have to look at it objectively and think to yourself, could any reasonable person make this decision? Not do I want somebody to, but could somebody make it? Could somebody look at this and say, well, you know what, somebody might think that's right and somebody might not. A judicial review will not work for you if that's the case, because they will only overturn a decision or order a decision be remade if the decision making process was so unreasonable that no reasonable person would have made it. So that was my judicial review against the IOPC. I am actually in the process of another judicial review against Bedfordshire Police. This is looking positive. I'll do another video on that shortly once there's an outcome to publish. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe to the channel, and look forward to seeing you in more videos.